Hello, I'm Lisa Burkhardt Worley of Pearls of Promise Ministries, and welcome to Pop Talk, the show where you never know what subjects might pop up. Well, you know, with an election behind us now, I thought it would be really good to have a topic about the political climate and to talk about our country. And so I ran into a woman on Facebook and I said, do you know anyone who actually might be in the political realm, who might lead a political organization or an organization that really just talks about this kind of thing? And she gave me this name. And we're going to introduce her in a minute, and you're going to want to stay tuned because it's a fabulous show that we have for you today. But before we get to her, I want to introduce our co-host, Rosemary Legrand, over to my far right. She's got a new do, by the way. I like it. It looks really good. And Dr. Lynnette Simm.
Hello.
So glad to have you here on Pop Talk, and I want to introduce our guest. Her name is Christie Hutcherson. She's here all the way from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She flew in just to be on Pop Talk, so we're so grateful. She's the founder and lead voice of an organization called Women Fighting for America. I like that. We're all strong women, so Women Fighting for America. That's a great title for her group. Christie is also the CEO and founder of Global Engine Solutions Incorporated. It's a woman-owned small business which supports strategic initiatives for companies. She's also a member of the Heritage Foundation President's Circle, as well as a member of the Family Research Council. These organizations are known for networking within America's prominent political conservative think tanks and America's well-known Family Advocacy Association. So we're just so glad to have Christie. She's doing a lot of good work out there, and we're just so thankful that you are fighting for our country. So tell us about the beginning of Women Fighting for America. It had humble beginnings, didn't it?
It had very humble beginnings. Actually, it started this year on Good Friday, believe it or not. And I'm a product of saying yes to God when God calls you out. I denied him a couple times throughout my life, and he met me right where I was in my backyard, and he said, Christie, are you going to deny me a third time? And I said, no, Lord, I'm not. I'm going to step out in faith, and I'm going to answer the call. And here I am.
So what was the premise, though, behind it?
God had something to say, and I think he's raising up women at this time, in this season, the Deborahs and the Esthers, to go across this nation and take back the soul of America. I think right now, America needs a mama right now, and she's a little lost. And so I really feel that both from a governmental perspective and a Christian perspective, we've kind of lost our compass a little bit. And so with a loving velvet fist, we're going to rise up,
like the
and we're going to take back the heart of America for our generations and future generations.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say thank you for being here. I don't know if you know it yet, but Christie's a Republican, and she served on the Republican Party Executive Committee for Duval County in Florida. But you have also volunteered with our former President Trump's presidential campaign. Okay. Looking back now, how do you think President Trump did when it comes to fighting for what it is the Conservative Party wanted, which is a strong constitution, promoting the truth about God, and then following our roots in government in America?
You know, first I want to say President Trump didn't just fight for the conservatives of this country. He really fought for all Americans.
Thank you.
If you look at his policies, the policies.
Yes.
You know, I know everyone loves to throw Trump under the bus. He's polarizing. They don't like his demeanor. They don't like what he says. But when you strip it down from a governmental policy standpoint for America First values,
yes,
constitutional values, and the small guy in America, his policies literally catapulted the American way, and it reached across all party lines, all colors, and all creeds. Amen. That is something that the mainstream media doesn't want the rest of America to know. But all you have to do is do a little research and a little digging, and you'll find out how those policies affected you in your home life, in your little bubble, like I like to call it. Mm-hmm. So I'm very proud of President Trump, and I'm very proud of the work that he's done. He's going to go down historically with the historians as one of the greatest, actually, in my opinion, top 3 presidents that we've ever had in our nation.
Christie, you were a poll watcher during the presidential election. And maybe that's old news, right? But you were close to that situation. Do you think that there was any tampering with the election? And if so, what do you know?
Well, clearly there is mounted evidence that there was some kind of fraud that took place. Personally, where I was a poll watcher, by the way, it was in 2016, I was actually out on the road speaking across this nation and educating women and the people out there about what was going on in the, not only the election, but what was at stake, this presidential cycle. But when I worked on the 2016 campaign, I can tell you this. I was in a Democratic precinct. I specifically asked to be in that precinct. They were known past for having fraud, and I personally witnessed fraud in that precinct. And I called it out, brought it to the supervisor of elections' attention, and there was an investigation done, and there was fraud going on there. So that I can definitely speak to. But we have evidence. There's videotape evidence of suitcases being pulled underneath. There's so much mounting evidence. It just needs to be heard. And I think if the American people had that opportunity to really see the evidence before them, that there would be a different narrative right now. But the mainstream media, again, is propagating, and they're wanting to hide it and cover it up.
But we do have a new president now, I mean, despite what happened. And so, you know, as Christians, we still have to pray. I've been praying for him. I've been praying for the vice president, so I still do that. And he actually used scripture in his inauguration address. He quoted Psalm 35, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Then he also encouraged Americans to open up our souls instead of hardening our hearts, which was kind of an allusion to the Exodus passages about God hardening Pharaoh's heart. So a lot of religious conservatives have been very afraid that this regime, this presidency is going to actually suppress religion and suppress religious beliefs. And so are you hopeful, or do you think that maybe that's not going to happen now after this start?
Well, first, when he alluded to the Exodus about hardening the hearts, I'm going to tell you, I don't think that America has hardened hearts.
Yeah.
I'm kind of offended by that statement. America is fundamentally good. Mm-hmm. I spent 4 months on the road, 22 states, and swing states everywhere from Michigan everywhere. And there's not one person that I can honestly say that I came across who had a hardened heart. That's rhetoric. Yeah. And as far as him alluding to the other, the Psalms passage and speaking unity, none of his actions have shown that. I mean, Hitler quoted Shakespeare. I mean, didn't he? So it doesn't matter what the words come out of somebody's mouth, especially politicians, especially somebody who's been in office for 47 years. It's their actions. If he was really wanting to advance Judeo-Christian values, even his Catholic values, why would, for an example, with the stroke of a pen, that he got rid of the Mexico City policy? And for those of you out there who don't know what that policy is, that is taking hard-paying taxpayers' money and funding abortion throughout the international world. So that to me, that's blood on your hands. So you're advocating for the murder of innocent children. So how, and what does God say? Thou shalt not kill. So how can he, as the president of the free world, say that he's for promoting Christian values or religious values? Even with his 17 executive orders, none of that proves that. So I look at someone's actions, not their words.
That's right. I think maybe trying to appease, well, that's not for me to judge, but maybe trying to appease the conservatives there when he was doing that.
Well, I think it's not only trying to appease the conservatives and the evangelicals out there, but it's also trying to appease his base. So in my opinion, when I've looked at this administration, past performance, you know, he's got a long record, right? It's all about gathering votes and harvesting votes. So politicians will pretty much say anything to harvest your vote or to get your vote. Right. I look at policies and I look at actions, and that's what the American people are starting to wake up to, I think. With any politician, whether it's the highest level of the land or to your local, please look at their actions, not their rhetoric or their words. It's very important.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you advocate going local, make sure that we start here as well, and you even go more local because you advocate for family. You're a mom and you've been married to your beloved husband for over 25 years now. But there's some worry amongst conservatives that this current administration is not going to protect the family. It won't protect, obviously, unborn children in our country or those. But they're talking about helping college students by offering forgiveness of student loans. I still have student loan. I've been paying it for years. I knew what I was getting into. I asked for the loan. I received the benefits of the loan and even feel that I am still responsible to pay that loan. So I find that a little hard to stomach. But I wanted to ask you, what do you anticipate will happen as far as our families are concerned under this new administration?
Well, they're a very anti-nuclear family. The whole administration is. Actually, the Democratic Party at large is extremely anti-nuclear family. You see that when they're advocating for a group like Black Lives Matter, who is against the nuclear family, that's just one of those things. With the free tuition, well, it's not just free tuition. Where do you start? They want to give free everything, right? When you're giving free everything, you're trying to, again, harvest a vote. You want that vote because you want to stay in power. It's about control, all those things. Free tuition sounds really great, but in reality, anything worth having
It's worth
working for.
Amen.
So the free society that they're trying to do is they want you to be dependent on government. Well, that is straight out of Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals. So if your audience doesn't know that book, Rules for Radicals, I highly wish that you guys would get a hold of that and read that. But what's going on in the Democratic Party is straight out of that book. And when you make the next generation dependent on government, there's a danger in that because now you don't have your sovereignty, you don't have the Constitution. It's not free enterprise. That's what makes America great. That's what's always made America great. And that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to strip the family. As a matter of fact, a really good friend of mine just told me this morning a conversation that he was having with his 6-year-old daughter. And she goes to public school in New York City. And he was asking her, how was your day? How was school? And he said, and her answer was, oh, we were just taught that there's no family anymore. It's just community. That you do not have a family. I don't have a family. I have community. That's being taught in our public school systems. So they're stripping away mom and dad and the family unit to say it's a community, which is the government.
That's right.
There's a danger in that. And I'm going to tell you, we need to wake up. And mamas and daddies out there, you need to fight back against this because we're losing our nation.
That's right.
You know, Christie, I know you have Women Fighting for America group all over the place, you know, all over the country. You know, how much lobbying do you guys do, and how close do you pay attention to proposed legislative action that is going on in government right now?
Well, we have heart chapters. So the heart chapters, our heart chapters stand for hope, equip, activate, reach out together. Those are our grassroots organic movements. I call it our super fiber optic highway, so to speak, all over the nation. And we do pay very close attention to what's going on in the legislature and lobbying. We do not have a lobbying group yet, but we will. One of the things Women Fighting for America is going to be lobbying for is the education reform. So our education system has, like I just said, is a propaganda machine, and it's just pumping out anti-Americans with communist principles. And the only way to do that is to actually take that back from the government. And we're advocating for those federal dollars that the government pumps into your local school system. And we want to start what's called educational co-ops out of these heart chapters. So right now, actually, if any of your listeners out there who are retired teachers or retired executives who have a passion to teach children, we're building a database right now. So in those community heart chapters, we start those educational co-ops because not everybody can stay home to homeschool their child. They can't do, not all of the Christian schools anymore. They're kind of, some of them are selling out, PPE money and things like that that's going on. So what better way to take back the education of our children than putting it back in the hands of the parents who now have those federal dollars, who can pay quality teachers, but oversee the curriculum and what's being taught in the classroom.
They've taken out a lot of the history. I know.
Yeah.
I met another woman and did a radio interview with her, and she's trying to teach the history as it really was, because they're taking out a lot of the history out of the history books that has been in there forever, just because it's controversial or something like that. So I want you to tell me about this bus tour that you were on, and I want you to talk about what you do when you go into a city. I mean, you really basically left for like 4 months and went all over the country, right? And so tell about why that happened. And when you get to a city, what do you do? I mean, I want you to just go through that. We got time. I want you to go through that. Yeah.
So I got on the bus tour because God said, "Christy, you're going on a bus tour."
Okay. Well, that's a good enough reason.
He gave me 28 days to do it in, and people were like, "There is no way this is going to happen." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right in the flesh, but in God's want it to happen, it's going to happen." So we literally would roll into a town. We would, first of all, for an example, in New Orleans, we went to New Orleans, and ironically, that hurricane was coming, and we had to get out a day early. But we love to go and do street ministry. So lay our hands on individuals, do healing and prayer, and it was just a beautiful time. So that's one of the things. And then go to shelters and help feed the homeless, or bring bottled water or food. So we always like to do some type of ministry outreach, which again is that reach out together part of our heart chapters. And then we would have rallies, and our team would speak about our foundation. You know, we've gotten away from that. This country was actually founded on Judeo-Christian principles, kingdom principles. Right. We are a Christian nation. God ordained America as the watchman of the world, in my opinion, and the protector of Israel, which is very important. And so we would talk about that. We'd talk about the Constitution, because they don't teach the Constitution or the Bill of Rights anymore. So we're educating individuals on our founding, our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and then exposing. So the exposing part is not only exposing what's been going on in the church, but exposing what's been going on in the government. I have a little bit of a unique perspective. I've worked in DC for over 15 years, and I've seen what goes on inside the Beltway, and it's not pretty. Right. So exposing money, where the money trail goes from, exposing those in office who are not necessarily doing the will of the people or what's in the best interest of the United States of America. That's not very popular. Exposing the BLM movement, exposing Antifa. Those aren't popular subjects, but those are things that need to be told to the American people. And I can tell you, every time, we had hecklers, we had people who don't like our message, who want to try to stop us. Right. But for the most part, I would get hugged, women, men coming up to me crying and saying, "Thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Please don't stop. We need to know this. We didn't know this." Because the media, again, doesn't tell the truth.
Back when I was in the news business, it was like you always had to get, whether you liked it or not, you had to get both sides of the story. And you'd get in trouble if you didn't, get both sides of the story. So we have a Christian organization, and we don't get into politics that much. This is our little, dipping our little toe into politics on this show. But we thought it was an important topic. And one of the things that I've seen lately is censorship. We're on a lot of social media platforms, and what I've seen is they're starting to shut us down on some of those platforms because we're a Christian television show. So is this something you're going to tackle at all, just censorship and free speech that many of us are losing? And I don't know where all that's going, because it may come to, it's coming to the point where you can't say certain things or say people are certain sex, and there's gender issues here. So can you explain what you're thinking about with that?
Anything to do with the Constitution, if it is going against the Constitution of the United States, we are going to tackle that issue. I am of Jewish heritage.
So am I. My father was Jewish.
My mother's family, so they fled Stalin. My grandfather and my great-grandfather fled Stalin, their whole family. They were being persecuted. And so I understand the value of freedom. Yeah. Most Americans, unfortunately, don't. I've traveled the world. I've been to some of these other countries. I've been blessed to be able to see that. And we are under censorship. I never thought we would see this in America. Right. But again, it's a systematic problem. To identify what a problem is, you have to figure out what the disease is. Well, that disease is communism, disguised as socialism, and it's a heart matter. So educating individuals that, hey, it's not coming, it's here. We're in it right now. And when you have big tech controlling the narrative, cancel culture, the media, we have got to stand up and rise up and push back. And the only way to tackle this issue, it is not going to come from the government, because our government has failed us time and time again. And especially with this new administration, they have no desire to fix this. They actually are lifting it up. If you even look at the individuals, I think when you, in the 90s, there was...
she knew exactly when I was in television, didn't she?
There was probably more like 20-something or 30-something different television news stations, the big ones. Now I think there's less than 7. And when you look at the executives of these news conglomerates, they're all intertwined with the Democratic Party. So they have an agenda, they have a purpose. So they're not interested in what's right or hearing both sides of it. They want one narrative and one narrative only.
That's right.
There's a danger in that. So how do we change that? Through education, and we the people are rising. Organic movement from the people saying we're not going to take this anymore, and we're going to have to think outside of the box. I'm hoping that maybe an Elon Musk and a President Trump and some of these big guys with deep pockets will say enough is enough, and let's open up a new network.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
We have no idea what's going to happen, but one of the things I wanted to bring up was that the past administration under Trump, he actually did really try to help other countries as well, Israel, as well as the Near and Far East in that area, with several peace treaties that he did towards the end of his administration that unfortunately we did not get to hear a lot in media at the time. But that really does have an effect, especially on women.
Yes.
The countries there have a real hardship for helping women. And we're all about women here. That's what Pearl's Promise is based on. But you are also an advocate for women, and the advancement of women's contributions, just like the previous administration, and hopefully we'll see what this current one does. But how do you go about advocating for women and our contribution in our country as well as around the world?
Well, there's a couple of different things. So there's different ways to advocate for women. There's some women who, like in the Middle Eastern world, where I've been privileged to go, they're so oppressed. And I'm going to talk for a second about the face coverings, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to be honest.
We had to wear them in.
So the face coverings are, in history and in culture, it is a way to muffle or silence and oppress somebody. That's what they use in the Middle Eastern world. And same thing as they're bringing it over here. So we need to speak up about that. They have a voice. You have a voice. We shouldn't be silenced. And as far as advocating for women here in the United States, I believe that the feminist movement kind of hijacked the women's voice. And I know they don't speak for me, those Pink Hat ladies and the Now ladies, they don't speak for most women out there. Right. You can be a feminist, but in the godly sense. So we like to raise up women to be leaders. We give them the tools necessary. So in these heart chapters, we have a leadership training program. So we come alongside of women to empower you through leadership training and identify what your aspirations are, what your goals are. How do you want to give back to society or to your family? So we come alongside of you, give you those tools. And then we don't just activate you out there, we come alongside longevity and are always walking alongside. So that is one way that we like to lift up women in the United States.
And we understand that because we want to lift up women who maybe have had some trouble, or might have been through some dysfunction or had a bump in the road along the way of their lives and they just can't get past it. And so that's one of the things we like to do too through our materials, just to help people through our stories as well. We've all been through it.
One of the things I do love to tell women is this, because all throughout my life, women have been taught that we have to one-up each other, or I don't hate to use the word stab each other in the back, or be catty and stuff, or work against each other, and that is so not true. I love to come together and lock arms. We can all have our unique voice,
Yes.
and have a different perspective on things, and that's okay. But we can come together in unity, in love, for one common purpose, or lock arms for, in my instance, to take back the soul of this nation and get back to our founding. And that's what Women Fighting for America are all about, is bringing women together with their uniqueness, their different talents, and saying, we're not going to fight or pit each other against. Let's lock arms and let's join forces, and let's do it through love and admiration for each other and respect.
Do you know, Christie, say someone is not politically minded, yeah, but they really do care about this nation, they really do care about this country. What are some of the ways that we can help an individual to make a difference in this nation?
Come join a heart chapter. Get involved with Women Fighting for America, and we are identifying right now one of the things we're doing in this season for 2022 and 24. We have elections coming up. Elections make a difference. It matters.
Amen.
It matters who is in office, from a local level, more importantly, by the way, state level, all the way up to the highest level of the land. So get involved with Women Fighting for America if you want to get involved governmentally or politically, and we will plug you in. We need poll watchers. We need to train people to get involved in their local school systems, their local city council, all the way up to the federal space if that's what you want. So we are in desperate need of women to be trained to get politically involved. We would love to have that.
Well, I love that. We're so glad that you were on the show. I hope somebody out there is going to sign up, right away to be a part of your organization, to join a heart group, or even maybe start a heart group in a city where there isn't one. And so we admire you so much for what you're doing. You're in the front lines, and we know it's not easy. And I know there's probably been some pushback, but keep going. We'll be praying for you, and I know what you're doing is right and spreading the truth. So if you want to get involved with Christie Hutcherson and Women Fighting for America, just go to their website. It's womenfightingforamerica.com. That's easy, womenfightingforamerica.com.
And of course, we would love for you guys to reach out to us here at Pearls of Promise Ministries. You can find our books and blogs, etc., and our shows on pearlsofpromiseministries.com. Of course, we are on many social media platforms, including but not limited to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and such. So feel free to reach out to us at info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com.
And we have some great news for you today. Since you last saw us, we have now added 2 television networks.
Amen.
We are now on CTF TV and Overcomers TV, giving Pop Talk 5 television platforms. And we are grateful to God for this blessing. And we don't want to forget other television networks.
And we're also on a number of radio platforms as well. Fishbowl Radio Network and the Christian Mix 106.com. We're also on Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, you name it. Pop Talk is on it. We also want to thank our production company, Grace Point Media. For all your media needs, go to gracepoint.media. So that is Pop Talk for today. We're just ordinary girls
Who God is turning into pearls.
Have a great week. We'll see you in 2.